This episode was recorded on Facebook Live in our free and private Facebook group just earlier tonight.
You're listening to the 40 Thrive podcast, the show created for women 40 and beyond, ready to shake things up. And now, your host, Jackie McDougall.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of 40 Thrive. We had Courtney Townley live. Courtney taught us all about her Make It Stick masterclass. If you've been part of 40 Thrive long enough, you know I love Courtney. She has spoken at our live event. She has been on the podcast a couple times before. I will make sure I link to it in the show notes. And she knows the wellness space. Oh man, does she know the wellness space? She is so great. Here's the thing. It's about way more than diet and exercise. So I really want you to open your mind, listen to this episode, and we're going to provide you some really cool ways that you can work with Courtney. And I'm going to throw in a couple bonuses myself. So definitely check out the episode. Let me know what you think. I like this masterclass idea and I want to hear from you. Is this something you like? Do you prefer just the interviews? Do you want to learn a little bit more? I want to hear from you. Listen, I know you could be doing absolutely anything with your time right now. And the fact that you've pressed play and decided to spend it with me, that does not go unnoticed and without immense gratitude. So thank you so very much. So before I get into my conversation with Courtney, I want to share this week's Thriver of the Week. Colleen Rosenblum. She is co-host of Hot Flashes, Cool Topics. It's an awesome podcast with two sassy women talking about all things menopause and empty nest and all of the stuff in between. So check it out for sure. So Colleen says, quote, I nailed the adulting thing this week. Juggled needs of hubby, adult children, pets and family while podcasting, blogging, and learning more of social media. Go, Colleen. You are Thriver of the Week and you rock. If you would like to submit yourself as Thriver of the Week, go to the show notes at 40thrive.com/episode 56 and submit. No, you can't submit for someone else. No, they can't submit for you. This is all about showing up, speaking up, and being the badass you are. All right, without further ado, here is the masterclass, the Make It Stick masterclass with Courtney Townley. It's the Make It Stick masterclass. You have been teaching this in your group. And I'm like, Courtney, I love you, but you need to come over and talk to my peeps because I know that they're going to be excited. So let me just give them a little welcome. Hi, I'm Jackie McDougall, founder of 40 Thrive. So I've been leading this community of incredible women since 2017. It all began. And since then, I've been asking a lot of questions and listening to the needs of this growing community. And so time and time again, I've heard from you all of you, and have had the opportunity to understand your core challenges. Let's be honest, your challenges, they're my challenges. So our core challenges. And so 2.5 years leading this group and just over a year of the 40 Thrive podcast, I know one thing for sure. Women over 40 want to feel better in so many different ways. And that's why I'm partnering with some amazing experts who will help you do just that. So if you've been a part of 40 Thrive long enough, you know I love me some Courtney Townley. Yeah. Courtney is the founder of Grace and Grit and host of the podcast of the same name. Not only was Courtney a huge hit at our very first 40 Thrive live event in 2018, she's been on the podcast twice. And what she has to offer is so much more than weight loss advice. So clients who've worked with Courtney have gone on to do some pretty amazing things, leading their lives with confidence and, of course, grace and grit. Right, Courtney?
Absolutely.
So everybody, please join me in welcoming Courtney Townley. Yay! I wish I had like
silent cheers. Yeah.
I wish I had that like sound effect to throw in like, hey,
I know, right?
So please note that if you have any questions during this live stream, just put them in the comments and I will do my best to ask Courtney. In fact, if you want to practice throwing some comments in there and letting us know you're there, little thumbs up, heart, wink, whatever, then we know that it's all
Facebook
working.
user.
Yes, exactly. All right. So Courtney, let's talk about Make It Stick and this incredible masterclass. Why did you create it?
A few reasons. So I have been in the wellness space for 20 years, right? Literally dedicating my life to helping women to unravel like this mysterious thing about what it takes to get healthy, right? And I really know firsthand how frustrating and overwhelming it can be for women to have the best of intentions to take better care of themselves and then really struggle to do the things they know they could be doing with any degree of consistency. Right. The other reason I created it is because, let's face it, we've been very much brainwashed by our culture that we should be pursuing change that requires us to take massive action in very short time frames and expect big results, no less that are sustainable. And that's just ludicrous because that's not at all how behavior change works. And so I feel like for those two reasons, I really felt compelled to create a class that helps women to just take a deep breath and remind themselves there's nothing wrong with you, but there very well may be something wrong with the strategy that you're using to try to create lasting change.
Right. And you and I have talked about this ad nauseum. Like I love to grab a challenge and try to win. And then, the next thing you know, I'm back to square one. And so I'm obsessed with, which sounds kind of funny, but I'm obsessed with like letting go of all of that and just living your life the way that you want to live your life and not looking at the end result.
Yeah. And I think it's such a beautiful reminder because we get very attached to outcomes. And again, right, this is kind of how the diet and fitness industry rolls. Like, what's your goal weight, right? Yep. And how much what's your PR at the gym, right? It's always focusing on the outcome. And that's hugely problematic because what happens when you achieve that outcome? Your work's not done. The work's really just begun.
Right.
So one of the things I want to offer the audience, because I think this really helped me with my own health journey and it's helped so many clients, is rather than thinking of health as a destination or an outcome to achieve, consider it more of a direction to head. Right. And you can have goals along the way that are little mile markers kind of showing you that you're headed in the right direction, but it's not focusing on arriving anywhere. It's heading in a direction.
Right. Can you imagine like finishing your work for the week at work and then you get a check for, let's just say $100. And then you're like, yeah, I got my $100. I'm done.
Totally. Right. Or you raise kids and it's like they get to a certain age and you're like, my work here is done.
Yeah.
Right.
Wait, that's not going to happen. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, apparently around 18, it gets a lot easier. That's what they say. I don't know. We're not there yet.
So that's funny. So tell me, who would benefit from this particular masterclass?
I think the better question is who wouldn't? Because the work that I teach, it might surprise a lot of people to know that about a third of my clientele is coaches and trainers. And
really?
That's right. Yeah. And the reason being is that a lot of coaches and trainers have sacrificed their own wellness to pursue their career. They're training 8 to 10 clients a day, right? They're physically putting out a lot. They never really learned necessarily how to take care of themselves with any degree of consistency. So a lot of them are struggling with the exact same problems. And wow. I'm the perfect example. Like that's how I got into this work, is I was the fit looking trainer who was a broken mess, and that's what kind of got me into seeking out help through a health coach and learning that my perception of what it took to get healthy was really misguided. Because I thought you could just move your way to better health, right? Yeah. Or if I did like that standard equation, eat less, exercise more, it would all work out in the wash.
Right.
But it turns out there's actually a lot more to it than that.
And I mean, you've said it before on the podcast that you were like thinner and unhealthy, and now you weigh more and you're way healthier.
Way healthier. So
the scale is a liar.
Yeah. The scale is your relationship to gravity, right? And it is for some people.
I love that.
it can be some data that you collect, right? To see which direction you're going. Mm-hmm. But the scale is not the problem as much as the meaning that we put on the scale, right? Because what you weigh doesn't tell me anything about your mental wellness. What you weigh doesn't tell me about how much fat mass you have compared to muscle mass.
Mm.
What you weigh tells me nothing about the effort that you're actually putting in to your self-care process. Because I know a lot of women who are dropping weight using methods that are almost a form of self-abuse.
Yes.
So really, and this is something that I talk about with my clients so much, what matters as much as what you're doing is why you're doing it. What is the intention behind making the choices you're making? And I'll give you an example. Somebody will say to me, "Oh, I had a salad for lunch. Isn't that healthy?" And I'll say, "I don't know. Why did you have the salad? Did you have the salad because you hate yourself and because you're trying to get, trying to impress somebody, and you think the only way you're going to be lovable is if you lose X number of pounds?" In that case, I would say, no, that salad is probably not super healthy.
Mm.
But if you ate the salad because you're really trying to nourish your body and you're trying to honor what it needs, and you really eat it mindfully and enjoy it, then yeah, it's a healthy choice.
Right. That's such a good point. I don't think any of us ever really think like that. And so it's such a great point.
Well, and how many people do you know? And I've been in this world for in the fitness world for so long. And again, I was one of these people that I didn't work out because I was trying to nourish myself. I was working out fiercely, almost borderline abuse, because I was trying to look a certain way to impress people. And
Right.
what I thought of myself wasn't even a part of that equation.
Mm.
So people could look at me and say, "Wow, she works out all the time. That's so healthy." My reasons for working out weren't so healthy. So why are you doing what you do?
Right. And how many of you can relate to that? I mean, that's absolutely, I think it wasn't until recently that I started working out because it makes me feel really good.
Exactly, right? Do it because it feels good, right?
Right.
Learn how to love it, because you know what? If you love it, you enjoy it, it makes you feel good. Don't you think you're going to show up to do it a heck of a lot more?
Exactly. And finding an activity that works for you. And that's a totally different live stream, but not just doing CrossFit because your neighbors are doing CrossFit and you hate it. Find
Right.
something. Yeah. I always have you as like the little, angel and devil on my shoulders. Work, fall in love with the work. And sometimes I'm like, get away from me, Courtney.
Right. And here's the thing. Like, I love being a mother. I don't always like my kid. Right? Like, that's just being honest. Like, I love motherhood, wouldn't trade it for the world. But there are days I have to show up to motherhood that are tough. So I don't always love it, but I don't always like it, but the majority of the time I do really love it. Right? I would never trade it. And that's how I kind of look at wellness, right? Look at like eating healthy. Do you always want to make healthy choices? Probably not. But if you make healthy choices the majority of the time and you know why you're making them, you know the benefit you're seeking on the other side, it's going to bode really well for you.
Right. Right. So what do you think is like the biggest challenge for women over 40 when it comes to creating that lasting wellness?
Well, a few things. Like, first of all, we've had a lot of opportunity to develop some really interesting habits, haven't we? Right? In our 20s and 30s. And some of us thought we were getting away with it. Right? Like, we kind of convinced ourselves, like, I can get 5 hours of sleep and I'm totally cool. Right? Or I can eat processed food the majority of the time. And my body, I'm still as thin as I was when I was in college. Like, we tell ourselves these stories. And then what happens when we get into sort of that perimenopausal era, right? That age group is progesterone and estrogen start to decline. And when those two hormones start to leave the party, it becomes problematic because our bodies become much more sensitive to stress.
Yes.
And we are living in our 40s and 50s and 60s. We are living at a time when stress is at an all-time high because we're managing careers and families and kids going to college, and we're trying to save for retirement, and we're taking care of aging parents, right? There's so much opportunity. Plus, a lot of us have developed lifestyle habits that are adding a tremendous amount of excess stress to that already overflowing stress bucket. and we don't have as much progesterone and estrogen on board, or any, depending on what age you are, right? That are helping us to kind of calm down cortisol, because that's what those hormones do. And so our hormones get a little or a lot out of whack. And we tell ourselves, this is just what happens after 40.
Right.
Right. It's just what happens.
Suck it up, buttercup.
Totally. And yet we're playing a very big role in it, in our inability, or maybe our unwillingness to manage our stress, to learn how to manage our stress better, and to really take responsibility for all the things in our life that are acting as stressors on our life.
Right. So why do we struggle so much to be consistent while we're, I mean, it sounds like I just answered the question for you. I mean, you've answered the question for you, and that we've put all the stress on ourselves that like, there's no room for consistency.
Right. Totally. Well, and I think a lot of it's our mindset, right? That we don't have time. We're too busy.
Yes.
Right. I've never been successful in the past, so why would anything else work? There's a lot of, I always call them the Oscar nominated scripts going on in our head for all the reasons why you aren't going to be successful with this.
Yeah. And we come up with a lot of them while playing Candy Crush or wasting other time.
Right. We are definitely not
when we're being productive.
Yeah. So I call those our time leaks, right? There's a lot of things that, because I work with very high achievers. So I work with women who have built incredible careers, have amazing families, have really, they're not sitting on the couch all day. I mean, these are high achieving women, but they tell themselves the story. I'm so busy. Nope, I don't have time for this. But it turns out when you really dig in, there's a lot of time being spent on things that are not in line with their priorities or what they say they want for their life.
Right.
And there's no shame in that. We all do it. But getting really honest with yourself about that is so key to being able to turn it around and use that time for something that is actually going to help nourish you.
Right. I mean, I've heard the phrase, and I'm going to butcher it here, but like either make time to be well now or make time to be sick later, or like something to that effect. You get the point.
And it's true, right? Like we kind of trade our comfort in the future because we don't want to get uncomfortable right now. Right. And I always tell people, I hate to break it to you, but you all know this. There's going to be discomfort either way.
Right.
So you get to choose your discomfort. This is the good news. So you can choose the discomfort of staying right where you are, or being a little bit worse off because you don't change your ways. And that for many women is incredibly uncomfortable because it takes away our self-confidence, right? We definitely, I call it integrity pain, where we live in a space of feeling like we're totally misaligned with what we want for our life, and our actions are not matching up with what we want for our life. Or so you could choose that kind of discomfort, which sucks because there's no benefit, except in the moment of like, oh, I don't have to do the thing right now.
Right.
Or you can choose the discomfort of leaning in to stuff that is going to nourish you, that you may not always look forward to, right? But the benefit on the other side. And here, that's the phrase I want you to remember. There's benefit on the other side. So I personally want to spend my time and my discomfort on things that are going to get me something. They're going to get me somewhere.
Right.
Versus just keeping me where I'm at.
Right. And that's the thing too, is if you actually take the steps, and you talk about consistency and like small steps and all of that. I mean, it's completely doable, but if you take the steps, you will feel better. It's not a question. It's not like, if I eat this jelly donut, will it be worth it? Like, that's really a very important question. But it's, if I take the steps and put myself first and make myself a priority, will I feel better? The answer is yes.
Yeah. And the caveat there, and this is the part a lot of women get hung up on, is if we so first of all, your brain, it doesn't want to work hard, right? Our brain likes the least amount of effort. So if you sign up for a program that asks you to overhaul your life overnight, your brain is eventually going to freak out on you and be like, whoa, sister, like this is just too much, right? And you're going to wonder why you went back to your old ways. So starting off small and making winning simple, make it easy for yourself to win. So if you haven't been working out at all, just commit to walking your dog, right? Multiple times a week. And then you can graduate yourself into, more difficult things down the road. But collect wins initially, and that will help to motivate you immensely, right? Is to be able to recognize those wins.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I think that one of the problems a lot of women are facing is they are taking measures, small measures sometimes, and then they're pissed off that they're not getting the result that they want in the time frame that they want it in.
Right.
And here's the way I look at that is health, rather than thinking of it as an outcome to be achieved, start thinking about it as a relationship that needs to be nurtured. How well does your relationship work with your partner when you put timelines on what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to behave by a certain date? Doesn't go so well.
We're not going to get into that. That's a whole other live stream.
Right. But my point is the
Yes,
expectation is what gets us in trouble, right?
Exactly. And just go back to that work week, right? You don't work 4 hours and then be like, why didn't I make, my full-time salary? You're like, well, you worked 4 hours. Like what, why would you expect it? So you mentioned the brain, and I know you love to like nerd out about the science of behavior change. And I love that stuff. So can you kind of explain a little bit more about this behavior change and what actually happens in the brain?
Yeah, definitely. So there's a few things about behavior change science that I think are really important for people to know. First of all, like, what is a habit? Because we talk about it a lot, but what is it really? And a habit is a behavior that you have repeated so many times that you can literally do it without thinking. And I want to emphasize that last part. You literally do it without thinking. Now, if you have habits that serve you and nourish you, that's awesome. But if you have habits that are depleting you and robbing you of health, not so awesome, right? And so we have to become aware of what we're doing in order to change our habits. But I want you to remember that habits are literally your brain's way of conserving energy. So when you've practiced a certain behavior enough times, your brain doesn't have to use a lot of resources to recollect how that pattern works. It just literally reacts at the speed of light.
That's so interesting. Say that again. That is so important. Habits are?
Yeah. So habits are your brain's way of conserving energy. So we react to life the more we have practiced certain behaviors. Like when you brush your teeth in the morning, how thorough do you think about that process? When you pour a glass of water, are you thinking about picking up the jug and slow, right? No. Maybe you did it first though, and watch your kids, right? Because you can see your kids starting to build these new neural pathways, and it's slow and it's messy, right? And they're making a lot of mistakes.
Yes.
But once they practice that behavior enough, it becomes like a super highway in the brain. It's traveling at lightning speed, and we become very reactive with our behaviors. And the trick is that if we want to change our behaviors, we have to slow down, recognize what we're doing, and make a conscious choice to respond differently. Now, a lot of people listening have probably heard of neuroplasticity, right? Neuroplasticity is, well, first of all, let me back up for a second. A neuron is a fascinating cell in the human body, right? So a neuron is a nerve cell that transmits information to and from the brain, telling your body how to react to certain environments and stimuli. And the pathway that neurons travel through are called neural pathways. So as you develop a new habit, those neurons are traveling a certain pathway through your brain over and over again. And initially it's kind of like kind of a muddy trail through the woods. It's not real easy to travel. You have to really think about it.
Right.
But with enough practice, that muddy trail through the woods becomes a dirt road, and then a paved road, and then a super highway. And this is not just days or weeks in the making. This is years in the making.
Right.
So, right. Like you watch your kids learn how to walk. It's super messy and awkward and, but they're having a great time doing it, which is, I think, interesting to note. But then as they get a little older, it becomes a lot easier. They start running, right? They start becoming a lot more, there's a lot more fluidity in their movement. And by the time they're in their teenage years, like walking is just not an issue anymore. It's something they just do automatically. So the thing that I think is very important for people to know is that you never really get rid of bad habits. I know this is disappointing. Right?
Say that again. Say that again.
We never really get rid of the habits that aren't nourishing us. So let's just say that you have had a really intimate relationship with sugar most of your life.
Oh yeah, we're lovers.
Yeah, you're lovers. You know each other well.
Oh yeah.
And let's just say that you've had a habit most of your life of rewarding yourself with a sweet treat every time you do a good job. All right. So initially, when you were a kid, your parents started rewarding you. Right. So initially, those neurons are kind of roughly traveling that dirt path through the woods. It's not a really solidified behavior. But then you go off to college and you keep reinforcing that every time you do a good job, you're going to celebrate with sweets. So now that pathway, the neurons are traveling more like it's a dirt road and a paved road. And years and years go by, you keep reinforcing the behavior until it becomes a superhighway. Like you just react to sugar all the time without ever thinking about it.
Right.
Now, let's just say that you start engaging with eating more vegetables, changing your diet, not having so much sugar in the house. You start making some changes to make it a lot easier for you not to engage with sugar so readily.
Okay.
Now, when you first start doing that, it feels awkward. You crave sugar. You think about sugar. You have a few slip ups. It's awkward, right? So because you're in that pattern is a super highway in your brain, but with enough practice of the new habits, those old behaviors get weaker and weaker and weaker in your brain. Those neural pathways become more like trails in the woods.
Right.
But here's the thing I want everyone to hear is if you've been practicing a new behavior for a while, let's just say even 6 months to a year, and life starts to kind of get a little bit more stressful, or you lose focus, or you stop planning, it is so easy to revert to those old patterns because they're so solidified in your brain.
Yeah.
Those neurological pathways did not develop in days, weeks, or months. They developed over years. And we were fed this lie that you can change a habit in 21 days. Say, what?
Well, because it sells.
Yeah, right? But that's not at all how it works.
Right.
It's like 21 days. Like if you're taking a new route to work, you could change that habit in 21 days. Okay. But habits that have been with you for years and decades are not going to change in 21 days. And even if you practice new behaviors for a year, you are still in times of stress or fatigue, going to be very easily lured back to old behaviors.
Yep.
And this is why we have to stay attentive to what we're doing, right? We have to be awake to our choices. And we have to stay aware of when we get misaligned, when we are tired, when we are starting to get overly stressed, because those things influence our behavior, especially with things that we used to engage with that don't serve us.
Right. And you have a 4-step framework that blows all of this out of the water and is a game changer. Tell me, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. So I teach women basically 4 practices. And I want to emphasize the word practice because practice implies something that you are committed to because you know it benefits your life, even if you're not good at it, right? That's why we show up to practice, is to get better and to maintain. And health is a practice. It's a lifelong practice. So me giving a client a cookie cutter protocol to follow, a meal plan, an exercise program, and just asking them to check off boxes of behavior is never going to help them build a practice of self-care. Because what happens when someone else tells you how to live your life? Eventually.
Well, there's resistance at some point.
Oh, the inner toddler comes out in full force.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Right now, she might not come out right away. Initially,
I'm like, this is me. Just tell me what to do. I'll follow it. And then they tell me what to do. And I'm like, you can't tell me what to do.
Well, and a lot of women tell me what to do because it's easier than going in and looking at my own BS and looking at why I do what I do. Right? It's kind of like walking into a house that's messy. You turn on the light. It's so much easier just to turn the light back off. But you're never going to have a clean house. You're never going to learn how to be self-directed in your life and with your health. So like you may be really inspired for the first 4, 6, or 12 weeks of some kind of cookie cutter protocol. Yep. But eventually what happens is that protocol starts to feel like an itchy sweater. Like it's just starting to scratch a little bit because it doesn't quite fit into your life, your likes and dislikes, and how you want to move through the world. So instead of getting to know ourselves better, we give that to somebody else and say, just tell me how to behave. And therein lies the problem.
So true.
Yeah. So the four practices I teach, and this is going to sound crazy, coming from someone who has spent her entire life studying nutrition and exercise, the 4 practices that I think are so foundational for every woman to know has nothing to do with me dishing out more information about diet or exercise than what a woman already knows.
All right.
Crazy, right?
Yep.
And here's why. Most women, I would argue probably every woman listening to this tonight, knows a lot of things she could be doing to improve her health. Right? You know that drinking water is good for the human body.
Yes.
Right? You know that sleep does a body good. You know the benefits of exercise, of managing your mindset, right? Of movement. You know the benefits of these things, and you probably know enough to get started. Yeah. The reality is it's not that women don't know, it's that there's a very wide gap between knowing and doing. And so the 4 practices I teach help women to fill the gap, to take the knowledge they have and start applying it with more consistency.
That's awesome.
It is awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's very unsexy, but it's awesome in terms of it's so much more gentle. It allows a woman to be so much more graceful with herself and kinder to herself and enjoy the process along the way. And I want to say this here and now. Yanni Friedhoff is a physician who does a lot of work with the obese population. So he studies obesity. And he has done lots of studies that show there are a lot of ways to skin a cat, right? There's a lot of ways to lose weight. And the diet industry has shown us that.
Oh, yeah.
But what he says is imperative to sustainability is how much someone enjoys the process of change. Right?
Yeah.
And how many women do you know that are dieting or doing boot camp classes that love it? Now, I'm not saying nobody does, but a large majority of women don't.
Yeah, we've got a comment in there that she loves her fitness program at Camp Gladiator. So, it's there. And that's the beauty is there are different workouts and different programs 100%. For everyone. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. But you're not going to do it if you hate it. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you might do it for a while. Eventually you're going to throw in the towel because you're just not enjoying yourself. Right? So you're not going to keep doing it, which means you're not going to keep reaping whatever benefits you got from it.
Right.
So the 4 practices that I teach are number 1, the practice of awareness. And there's lots of layers of awareness. All right. But awareness in my book, the big thing I want to get across to my clients is not just what are you doing? We need to become aware of what you're doing, but why are you doing it?
Right.
Because when you start to understand your behavior on that level, that's where deep, meaningful change starts to shift, right? It's where it starts to happen, starts to sprout.
Yeah. And I think we're at that perfect time in our lives, in our 40s, 50s, and 60s, where we're tired of these bullshit stories that like, oh, I just do it because ... When you know that going internally and really trying to figure out why you have certain behaviors and why you do certain things, it's so much more rewarding when you could actually like hold up a mirror and go, oh, that's not why I'm doing it at all. And I really want to be, I'm at a point, I mean, I'm almost 49, I'm almost 50 thriving. So I want to be honest with myself at this stage of the game of why I have certain behaviors and why I think certain ways. And I think it's just such a great time to just be honest and also be kind to ourselves, you know?
Well, and that's how relationships grow is honesty, trust, kindness, right? And you are in a relationship, you are in the most long-term, intimate relationship you will ever be in your life with yourself. And do you want to hang out with a jerk? Because I sure don't. I want to know her. I want to know exactly what she needs. I want to know what sets her off. I want to know when she's misaligned. But if I'm not willing to ask myself really pointed questions, and here's why a lot of women don't, because number one, they again don't make the time for it, right? They don't have the time. And this awareness requires that you slow down in order to speed up. It requires that you carve out, I call it trimming the fat in your life. You got to trim some fat in your life to create time for awareness. And then once you start becoming aware, it's really important that you stay curious and not judgmental, because you're going to see a lot of mess that you created. Right. Yeah. And it's really easy to be like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe I've spent the last how many years with this pattern. What is wrong with me? That is not helpful. You know what that's going to do? It's going to cause you to go down the street and buy a box of donuts.
Yeah. Or a bottle of wine, or insert your vice here, you know?
And here's the truth. You cannot be judgmental and curious at the same time.
Okay. That one's worth repeating.
You cannot be judgmental and curious at the same time.
Wow. I'm like trying to figure out a way that you can be in my head.
Right.
And it's not working.
You're such a rebel.
I know.
There must be a way. Yeah.
There must be. But you're right. You cannot be judgmental and curious at the same time. And so to come from a place of curiosity is just, it's so freeing, isn't it?
It's so freeing, because the phrase that I love, and I'm sure a lot of you have heard before, but it's so powerful, is, oh, isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting that every time I have like an intense thing happen in my business, I want to go eat chocolate? Like, that's so interesting. And it's what a great thing to know about myself. And isn't it interesting that every time I don't get a good night's sleep and my husband and I try to have a difficult conversation at the end of the day, it doesn't go well. Right? Like, I know oops, my earpiece just fell out. It seems kind of silly, but when we can really just lift the rug up and look at the dirt underneath, it's so much easier to clean it up.
Yeah.
Or we can just keep shoving dirt under there and then wonder why we have mold and wonder why we have, all these other problems, because we're not willing to just lift the rug up and get rid of the dirt.
Right. It's time. It's time to lift the rug up, because there's really no other way to live.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like, well, I don't think there's another fulfilling way to live.
Correct. And
right?
I mean, and that's what we're all about, is thriving here. And so if you're interested in thriving, you need to lift the rug up.
And I think a big part of thriving is being authentic. And in order to be authentic, you got to get straight with yourself. No more hiding, no more lying, no more shame, right? About why you've done the things you've done. It's just time to start taking responsibility for, it's like a road trip. I meant to go to Boston. I ended up in New Hampshire. All I have to do is look at my map, right? Look at my strategy, reroute myself, and head back to Boston.
Right.
Instead of coming up with this dramatic storyline about what a horrible person I am because I ended up in the wrong place, or a place that just didn't feel aligned to me, right? It wasn't where I intended to go.
Right. And how many people will stay in New Hampshire going, oh, I wish I had gotten there.
Right. And the time they spend doing that, they could have gone to Boston 15 times.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such a good, and coming, growing up in Boston, that was a great reference.
Well, my husband's from Boston, so.
Yes, exactly. So I want to talk about your new program, Consistency Code, which sounds so I don't know, strong and powerful. Consistency Code, like you're going to crack it. How does that work? How does the Consistency Code work? Consistency
Code it's a 4-week program. And each week for 4 weeks, I release a new module of the program. And the modules are those 4 practices, which, by the way, I only told you one. The other 3. So we have the practice of awareness,
Yep.
The practice of organization, because once
Mhm.
you're aware of where your gaps are and where kind of the weak spots are, you need to
Okay.
start organizing yourself so you can start responding rather than continuing to react.
Oh, that's cool. So
Yeah,
just having a little bit of planning or preparation, you can
it's
actually
huge. Yes,
avoid those pitfalls.
totally. Because you know
All
what?
right.
If I made some effort to live intentionally today, like I made a plan for how I wanted to spend my time today,
Right.
I'm going to end the day feeling so much more fulfilled than if I just wake up and let the day take me wherever it wants to,
Mhm.
right? Which is usually putting out a lot of fires.
And that happens with me with work.
Oh,
If I
yeah,
have it like mapped out on, even if it's just little tasks that I have mapped out in the calendar, I am like unstoppable. But if I just leave it to chance and I'm like, oh, I'll get some things done on my list, it's not going to happen. So
exactly.
it applies to all different areas of your life.
Yeah. So we spend a whole week doing a deep dive on organizing around
Nice.
self-care specifically.
Mhm.
And then the third week, I go into the practice of follow through. Because
Mm.
I know women who will get the fancy, planners and the color-coded markers and the sticky notes. I mean, they will plan for days. And
I
then,
don't know what you're talking about.
yeah, and then what happens? The time comes for them
Mm.
to execute and they bail, right? They negotiate, rationalize, and compromise their way out of their own plans.
Yeah, why is that?
Oh, it's a habit. It's a pattern
Mm.
that they have practiced so many times.
Yeah.
And they don't want to feel something. They don't want to feel discomfort. And here's something to know. You have kind of two important parts to your brain when it comes to behavior. Well, there's a lot of parts, but the two I want to talk about. You have the amygdala, which is a tiny little almond in your brain, and it's what we
Mhm.
call the primal brain, the lizard brain. And the amygdala is only concerned about you staying alive.
Mm.
So it has three primary objectives: seek pleasure, avoid pain, exert the least amount of effort.
Sounds good.
Yeah, but it sounds great. Totally sucks for modern day culture
Yeah.
because we are living in a culture of overabundance. So a lot of pleasure, like we have so much opportunity for pleasure to the point it's killing us,
Mm.
right? We avoid pain. Avoiding pain is good, but come on, you got to lean into a little discomfort to change your life.
Right.
So that bites us in the butt. And then you have least amount of effort, where change is a very effortful process. But here's the good news. You also have a part of your brain called the prefrontal cortex, which is like the thinking part of your brain. It allows you to think about your thinking. It allows you to plan your days, right? And kind of process information. And we need to use our prefrontal cortex to parent our amygdala.
Ah.
Right? So when you find yourself saying, well, I don't want to go to the gym today, there's nothing wrong with you.
Right.
Your amygdala is doing its job. Hey, we don't need to work out today. Let's stay in the cave and conserve energy because who knows what's going to happen later today. We might get chased by a lion.
Right.
But we're not really living in that time anymore. So I know that's not really going to help me. No, amygdala, we're going to kind of just put you back to bed. We're going to just kind of, don't worry, we're safe. We're going to go to the gym. Right? And when you
Nice.
understand how your brain works and that it's not personal, it's just biology.
Right.
Right? And here's the other thing. If you leave with nothing else tonight, your body is working so hard for you.
Mm.
It's not against you. It's not doing things to hurt you. Your body is fighting to keep you alive, and it is responding to the messages that you're sending it. It just is. And so
That's I think it's all about perspective, right? We've been programmed to think like our body is our enemy. And I love how you help your clients and your students align back with their bodies and appreciate it and respect it.
well,
It's huge.
especially after the age of 40, right? Like we are
Mhm.
trained to think like my body is like it hates me. Like my body is disappointing me. It's failing me. No, it's not. Your body, for how crappy we treat our bodies and how well they show up for us every day, it's just not true. Your body is always doing the best it can with the message that it is receiving. And so when we think about it that way, it really kind of motivates us to make sure we're sending it messages that it can do
Mhm.
great work with. So the
Right.
final practice that I teach is the practice of realignment, because there's a myth that people who are really fit or people who are really healthy, which by the way, fit and healthy are not synonymous. I know a lot of fit people who are not healthy people. Okay. But we look at kind of people who are fit and people who seem to have, their health together. And we tell ourselves that they're successful all the time, that they never get misaligned. But the truth is they get misaligned all the time, but they don't tolerate being misaligned for very long.
Oh.
So they don't spend weeks, months, and years being misaligned.
Right.
They spend a couple days and they're like, ooh, this doesn't feel good. I'm getting back to the stuff that I know works.
Right.
And so realignment is a practice. And the only way you can start the practice of realignment if you are acutely aware of when you're misaligned. Right.
And that's a good point. And having the accountability too, to like check yourself and get back in alignment. Because sometimes we do know we're misaligned and we're like, no, what's another day?
Well, and a lot of women get misaligned and then they tell themselves that I need a diet. I need a supplement. I need something that's going to I call them the Hail Mary approaches, right? Like you have been spending a lot of time misaligned to the point that maybe you've gained some weight, your hormones are really out of whack, you're really tired all the time, and you're so desperate to feel better. You sign up for something that's promising you to turn it all around in a matter of days or weeks. And while that might work temporarily, you know how it ends.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. And I think that people are so desperate for that result or what they think the result will be that they're like, take all my money. Like,
totally.
Why do you think gyms are packed on January 1st?
Absolutely.
Like the gym is mysteriously going to do the work for you this year,
So here's the thing. When I teach women the tools that will help them to realign themselves, right? Get back to the practices that help them to stay healthy. They don't have to buy into those things because they know where they need to pivot back to. I need to get back to organizing myself. I need to get back to being aware of what I'm doing, for one. I need to get back to organizing myself, and I need to get back with following through with what I know is healthy for the human body. Right. And there's a lot of theory about what's healthy for the human body, but there's a few undeniable things that science keeps telling us over and over. And those are the things that we need to be focusing on. Water, an awesome thing. Your body, every function in the human body depends on water. You're mostly water. And so we need to be drinking water. We need to be getting adequate sleep. We need to be moving our body often and much. And please don't hear me saying exercise, because exercise is important, especially over the age of 40, strength training, because we're so much more likely to lose muscle mass and bone density.
Yep.
But movement is so important to the human body. So even if you go to the gym for an hour every day, you can't just sit for the other 12, because there's research that shows us that actually you're more likely to die a premature death if you sit on your butt all day, right? So I talked about this at 40 Thrive. We need to move throughout the day, stretch, hang, sit on the floor and do, play with your kids. It doesn't have to be anything, wildly crazy, but just move your body. Right. We also know that eating nutrient-dense food, specifically vegetables, lots of vegetables, and protein. Protein is great for the human body, especially for women over the age of 40, again, because we are so at risk of losing muscle mass. Yes. Not to mention, I also believe that women over the age of 40 get more sensitive to carbohydrates. I'm not saying don't eat carbohydrates, not by any stretch, but respect them. That's what I always say. Respect your carbohydrates, right? You don't need an overabundance of them, especially if you're not exercising much or not moving your body much.
Right.
But just be aware of your carbohydrate consumption. And then, of course, my favorite talk, my favorite conversation these days is around the mindset. If you are not managing your thoughts and you are not managing your emotions, it doesn't matter what I teach you, you won't do it. You won't do it in a sustainable way.
What are the best ways, like we didn't plan this, but what are some ways that you personally manage your thoughts? Because you're human.
Yeah. And we kind of did talk about this, but not specifically. It goes back to what I said earlier, that we have to be willing to get brutally honest with ourselves.
Yeah.
And one of the most powerful things that for me got me brutally honest with my thought management is starting to look at my thoughts. Pen to page. When I'm feeling something I don't want to be feeling, or when I'm rumbling with a challenge in my day, pen to page for 3 to 5 minutes, and I just do a brain dump.
Really?
Yep, just do a brain dump. And then I read it. And here's what's fascinating. A lot of women tell me, I know what I'm thinking. I don't need to write it down. Oh, yes, you do. I thought I knew what I was thinking, but it was way worse.
Wow.
I mean, what I was thinking, I'm still horrified at some of the things that I think in the day. Like, who is in there? Right? Like, what is she doing in there? But yeah, like, and when I get pen to page, I can really look at and say, oh, wow, isn't it interesting? Curiosity, not judgment, that I'm choosing to make this thing today mean this. Why am I doing that? Is it helpful? Is it helping me to find a solution? Is it making me feel good? Because your thoughts are optional. And we don't like this truth. We like to think that life is happening to us and that's why we feel the way we feel. Nope. You feel the way you feel because you think a certain way. And that's why you feel the way you feel. Can I say one other thing? And this is totally a little bit off topic, but I think it's so important to hear. I worked with women for many years earlier in my career where I was very regimented about cookie cutter protocols, right? Telling a woman how much to eat calorically, how much to eat in terms of macronutrients. So I knew a lot about macro splits and what works for fat loss. And I do think that's a very relevant tool to some people. I don't think it's a great place to start. But what happened is because I had no tools for teaching people how to manage their thoughts and emotions, none. I wasn't even doing the work myself. So what would happen is a woman would lose 50, 75 pounds. And guess what would happen? I would see her 6 months or a year later, all the weight's back. And here's why. Your brain does not like your reality to mismatch what's going on in your head. So if you do not change your thinking along the process to change, whatever outcome you achieve, you will not sustain it because your brain will always go where your thoughts go. So if you think you're unworthy, that you'll never be able to maintain it, that you're always destined to be unhealthy and overweight, that you're, all of these things that we think, if you don't change those thoughts along the way and you achieve an outcome by checking off boxes, you'll never sustain it. It's cognitive dissonance, where your reality is mismatched to your thought process. Right. Your brain doesn't like it. It's incredibly uncomfortable for your brain. So women we'll start like eating the thing. We'll start drinking more alcohol. And it's just kind of a gradual, slippery slope. And all of a sudden, one day we wake up and we're like, we get on the scale and we're like, well, how the hell did this happen? Where's all my weight again? And it happened because of the way we were thinking, the way we were processing.
Right.
Or not processing.
Right. You're so right. One of the things that I have done historically in the past is I've paid thousands of dollars for programs that I never actually do. Like, oh, this is the thing to give, I'm like that little meme with Kermit the Frog, right, on the typewriter. Like, this is the program that's going to change my life. We all know, number one, only I can change my life, but I've spent a lot of money and then those programs like sit dusty on a shelf, but you do things so differently with your students and how you work. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So I only work with people these days in one of two ways. I work with people privately, which obviously is more expensive, right? Like I love working with my private clients, but it's not an option for everybody.
Yeah.
The other way I work with people is I offer a group program. It's called the Consistency Code. And what's really cool about this program is not only is it 4 weeks of, where we go through a new module, a new practice each week, but once a person comes into that program, they get invited back every single time I run it. And here's why. Health is a practice of consistency. Yes. So it doesn't matter that you went through it once with me for 4 weeks. You always are going to need to come back, as anyone who's mastered any skill always needs to refine the basics. That's how they stay on top of their game. And you're going to come up with new challenges and new frustrations, and life is going to shift for you. And coming back into an incubator where you get support on an ongoing basis is powerful.
Awesome. So
the program's 4 weeks. I think it's a really great price point. The program is it's $397, but until today and tomorrow, we do the $100 discount for early bird pricing because it starts on the 15th. of February.
Okay. So the program starts on the 15th.
Yep.
It's $397.
Yes.
It includes these 4 amazing steps in your framework.
Yes.
But what really impresses me is it's not like you get a module in your email and then it's like, go ahead, sister, let me know in a Facebook group how you're doing. Like they get access to you.
Yeah.
You walk them through this. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. I mean, it's way underpriced. Like I get this all the time, right? Like where people go through my program and they're like, this is underpriced, right? And I'm like, I know, but I want women to have this so badly. So what happens is I teach each module live, right? So it's a live class. Now, not everyone can be there live, and that's okay because it all gets recorded and put in an online classroom. But I encourage people to come live if they can, because I spend a lot of time coaching as I'm teaching, right? So they get time with me.
Yeah.
But what's really cool is I had this idea the first time I ever ran it. Like a big part of this program is helping women to get organized each day for how they want to live their day with intention, right? How are you going to show up for yourself and wrap up the day feeling like, yes, I nailed it today. Like I showed up in all the ways I wanted to. That's what I want to help women do. So I decided, okay, you know what I'm going to do is for the middle 2 weeks of the program, every single night, Monday through Friday, I'm going to get on a live group coaching call and I'm going to walk people through getting organized for their next day. So we're going to do it together as a group.
That's cool. That is
and what's
so
really cool is the conversations that get triggered because of these, these meetings. So people have all kinds of questions, and that helps to normalize that, oh, I'm not the only one who struggles with these things. Yeah, you're totally not the only one, right?
And I love that you call it a planathon.
It's a planathon, yeah. And even the planathon sessions get recorded and they get uploaded into an online classroom because not everyone can make every planathon.
Right. So there are weekly classes and the planathon.
Weekly classes, planathon, lots of additional resources. And the coolest thing, and I just built this about 6 months ago. So the last time I ran Consistency Code, I was like, okay, there's a gap here. Because people finish this program and I don't run it again for like another 4 months.
Right.
Right. And again, a private training with or private coaching with me is not an option for everybody. So how do I keep supporting these people? Right. So I created a membership site. It's called Rumble and Rise because change is all about rumbling. It's all about getting in the arena and getting dirty and getting messy and doing things imperfectly. Right. So I created that space and I offer a masterclass every month. I offer group coaching calls, 2 of them every month. There's tons of recipes and kitchen help and workouts and meditations. It's an amazing space. And so people who do my Consistency Code program, they get 2 weeks of totally free access to that arena after the program. So we're talking about 6 weeks of support for 4 weeks of a program, right, that they're paying for. And there's by the time this course finishes, there will be almost 6 months of content in that arena. So like once you finish the program, your whole world just expands on a whole nother level because you get to take what you learn in Consistency Code and run with it. Because now you're getting all these other resources that are going to help you. But I don't start with giving people that access because I don't want to overwhelm them. I'm very strategic how I drip out the content.
Absolutely. And I've run group coaching programs before, and it's really important. That's what I love of that. What you're doing is like to give them exactly enough to be successful. Don't overwhelm them with like, if you say macros and micros, like my eyes like roll in the back of my like, nope, done. So I love that you're creating this lasting change through very simple practices. Very
simple, because my biggest hope is that when women finish this program, they will feel like they are leaders of their own life in the health arena, that they're not always having to ask for a professional to come in and tell them what to do.
Right.
Right. It's helping women to become self-directed, which honestly, ladies, it's the way we're meant to be. When we go against the grain of who we are and what we like and what feels good, we aren't being authentic with ourselves. Right. And that creates a lot of misalignment. So my objective is to help women be graceful and at the same time apply a whole lot of grit, because there is discipline involved, right? If you truly respect yourself, you're going to show up to do the work.
Right.
to take your life to higher ground. That's just a part of it.
That's fantastic. And so this $397 program that's like way underpriced already because you get so much stuff. You're actually giving us a code to get $100 off of that.
Yeah.
To make it $297.
Yeah.
For the 4 weeks plus the extra 2 weeks.
Totally.
And if you're a 40 Thrive listener, you're in the group, you're listening live, you're watching, you're listening to this podcast sometime before the end of Thursday, the 6th, I will add some bonuses myself. I will give you a free ticket to a live event coming up. And hint, Courtney and I are talking about something special.
Right.
So you will go for free. And I will add in a free 30-minute midlife mentor mini session. That's something I've been doing. If you feel stuck, you need clarity on next steps, or you just want to work through a challenge, I got you. So 30-minute mini session, a free ticket to the event, and this incredible, like seriously underpriced, can't even say it enough, course, and the $100 off.
Yeah. And the code, I just want to give it to you now so people can write it down. We'll put it in the comments too.
Okay.
But it's TCC for the consistency code, right? It stands for consistency code. So TCC early bird is the $100 off. And then if people just go to the consistencycode.com and they go through the checkout process, you'll see where you put that coupon in and it'll automatically take the $100 off.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I have a special link that you gave me. So that way I know that anyone who came through my link,
that's right.
Then I'll know to give them my extra bonuses.
Yes.
As well.
And scratch what I just said. Definitely use her link. It's important because yes, it's good.
I mean, here's the thing. You don't use my link. I don't know you came through me and you don't
It's hard to track everything for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's really that simple. And I would love to, talk to as many people as possible in a 30-minute midlife mentor mini session.
I love it.
Courtney, I love what you do. You know this, from the minute I met you at the podcast conference, like 3 years ago, and we gazed across the table.
4 years ago now.
Summer. Yeah. And I just, I always say it's not about what you put in your mouth. It's not about moving your body, but obviously those are important, but you add such value to this whole process where people are struggling and they don't know why they're struggling. And your 4-step framework is genius. It's like the most simple genius thing I've ever heard, because it's not about being more of something. Like, I think women are like, I'm not good enough and I'm not big enough and I'm not doing it enough and I'm not enough. And you're like, girl, you already are.
Yeah.
Let's actually take it back. Let's be kind. Let's find a little bit of peace. And that's where you'll live the life that you want to live. It's actually the opposite of what you've been doing. And so I think it's absolutely brilliant.
Well, and a lot of people ask me like how did I come to teach the work that I teach? And honestly, it's from making so many mistakes and from helping so many women and going through all of my own challenges with health and what I think health is and how I define health and what I want it to mean and how I want to show up for myself. I've rumbled with all the same things. And so, yes, this happens also to be my profession. And I can't not share it with people because it's change is hard. Struggle is totally optional. It really is.
That's our final. You got to go a second time with that one.
Yeah.
Change
is hard. Struggle, totally optional. You do not need to struggle, right? Struggle is it's not necessary. But sometimes we feel like we don't have a choice in it because of the strategy we're using or what we think we should be doing. And what I really help women come back to is their own knowledge, right? What have you already collected? What do you already know? Let's start there and see how far it gets you. And the truth is, it gets women a hell of a lot further than they ever would have imagined.
It's just awesome. Awesome. So I'm going to include the link, my special link where you can get the bonuses to it. And then also the code, I will add that as well. And I'm just psyched. I'm psyched for this. I cannot wait. It's going to change a lot of lives and I really appreciate you.
Oh my gosh. I appreciate you so much. And I always love spending time with you. So I hope it was helpful to people listening. I hope it was.
Right. Look at someone said, I'm taking notes. Heather said, love this, stay curious. I mean, totally agree. Mindfulness, great info. I mean, you are just jam packed with info, and just the way you deliver it is like, it's like talking to a girlfriend next door, who's just telling you and not feeling like you're being judged. And I love that.
Yeah.
Because you know what it feels like. And it's awesome. So people are saying thank you. So thank you so much, Courtney.
Oh my gosh. You're so welcome. Thank you for those of you who came on. Like, I'm so glad that we were able to do this. And
it's awesome. And now, I like I said, I'll post the link because you need to go and work with her. Amazing.
Awesome.
All right.
I love it.
Thanks so much. Thank you so very much for listening. Please share this episode with a friend and let me know what you think. Let's connect in our free and private Facebook group. Just go to 40thrive.com/group. Until next time, take care and keep thriving.